we fixed it and actually had a test this time. It's about the subsets. If you have a subset with no labels, it doesn't actually select any endpoints. It's supposed to select all of them.
And do we know if it affects older releases than 1.11, or is this
No,
only affecting?
it was a regression since 1.10. So
got it. Okay.
So both of them are regressions since 1.10, or just
they both are.
Okay.
And they both just got this is approved, so we should have another build, I'd imagine, pretty soon.
Okay.
So this, sorry, go ahead.
So when you are done with the blocker, I want to ask about another the annotation and label on release notes. Go ahead, Niraj. I think you're still on the blocker.
Yeah. So I want to understand that we are gonna catch them going forward. So two things, both of them were only caught in the long running tests, but it looks like one of them just was missing integration test. So it could have been caught earlier, right?
Actually, one of them, the memory issue with the cache, that was caught in the performance test. So that could have easily been caught if we had done any performance testing beforehand. Like we used to kind of do that from time to time on master, and I don't think anyone's been doing that. The other one was actually purely coincidence. I just happened to be testing it out for a completely unrelated reason, and it wasn't working, and I was confused, and then found out it was a blocker. So we just got lucky there.
I see. But the second one you are fixing now, so going forward, that regression won't be introduced.
We now have actual tests. Yeah.
For the first issue, we need to figure out a better way of making sure big features don't impact our performance.
Yes, we should probably be running the long-running test for the master branch.
Yeah, or I mean, or gate when it's difficult to gate it on collapse because features just don't collapse as one, right? A sequence of PRs.
Yeah.
Did we not run the long-running tests on an earlier 1.11 branch build?
I pinged Shiman, I guess is the name, just after we had our first beta release, but I got no answers. So I just assumed that we would only run it on the release candidate build, on the code after the code freeze. But,
okay, so you'd asked, but we didn't actually run one.
So normally we run it near to the release after code freeze. And I think the day we had code freeze, we found this release blocker which John mentioned. And I don't think we ever then started.
Okay, so maybe test and release working group folks, is this under your purview to make sure the master performance test is run periodically at whatever cadence we want?
I believe that's probably true.
All right, so when your, I guess, the quarterly items come, we can add this to the backlog. Perfect, thank you.
Rich, can you also go back if topic is done?
Do you want to review this weekly sheet? Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
So this is what I do, Craig. I don't know if this is what you're looking at. This is what I do at the end of the release. So all the features which we planned per working group, the ones which are marked red are the ones did not make into the release. The greens are the ones where they are actually in the release, and the whites are the ones where I do not have a good status. At that point, Costin is the only one looking into the environment, and that's very busy. So other than that, we should have a good status of every pillar we have in Istio.
Okay, so I guess the Helm wasn't moved to beta.
That one jumped out at me to start with. Is that?
Yeah.
Is this true for 1.11? Like, are these things that were not true in 1.10 that have moved, or is it was always that way and now that it's still in beta?
So 1.11 is where I do not have status. We start tracking the features in 1.11. But if the working.
All right, sorry, you're saying this was tracked up till 1.10.
1.10.
Right. Okay.
So does
Right,
this
so-
green color, is it different than the other green color?
So normally I used to change color based on every week. And then all the dark greens are the ones which are done. Environment is the only one I don't have a good status. They were on progress. So the lighter green is they were on progress up until last minute. But I do not have the good status of the environment exact at the end of 110. What was the update?
And
Okay.
But they were.
and to be honest, I don't really understand what is the status either. I mean, with the Helm, I mean, all of them are more or less completed, but they are all kind of checkboxes that I don't know. People are still trying to get them in, or we don't know. I guess for Helm, for example, we'll just move it to the next one because.
Yeah, let me ask Jacob. I'm not sure. Yeah, he's still on vacation. So when he comes back tomorrow, since we have time, I will get him. I'll connect with him and see if he actually promoted it, and if not, what was the reason. Okay.
Yeah, we are. I mean, from my point of view, we are done with almost everything. I mean, it's just the checkboxes. It's all over the place. Okay.
So I
Alright.
noticed there's actually a whole lot of features that Craig, you didn't have in the blog. Like the security work group, like multiple routes. I guess this is like super important feature. Auto mutual TLS, it's been there for a long time. So I don't know what else was highlighting. But the customer action, I feel like it's been there too. But this one is super important.
So what I heard from Twitter is what we're looking at here is up to the end of 110, not up till today with 111.
Oh,
Yeah,
got you. Okay.
That's the issue.
Okay, got it. Yeah. But I don't remember us highlighting this even in 110 though. That's interesting.
All right. So Shweta, do we have anything from your management, project management side of things that we can look at? If not, we'll crowdsource like Craig has been trying.
Yeah,
For
I do.
111.
Yeah. I don't. I would love to create similar matrix, but I need support from working group leads.
No, that's fair. Got it.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so back to 1.11 announcement. I just have one thing I want to bring up. It's on the annotation and labels. I don't think we formally retired the annotation, even though label is so much better. I don't know if we want to mention anything in 1.11 announcement. John, go ahead.
I assume you mean the injection label.
Yes, I do.
I'd be fine with announcing it.
I think it would be nice because there are so many mysterious problems user had with annotation, especially when Istio was not running. Label is just way better for our user. It would be good to actually encourage them to move to that model.
Which label are we talking about? Istio IRF?
It's the injection label. Yes, that
Yeah.
allows you, instead of using annotation, which is filtered at Istio.
Yes. The only question I have about promoting too much this is I don't know how it relates with the tag. If we want for tags to so I don't know if we want to continue to tell users to deal with revisions explicitly, or we want to completely hide them behind tags. And if we move to tags, we can continue to use the Istio rev label, or we may want to see if we call it Istio tag. That was one thing I was looking for in 112 to clarify. John, do you have any opinion on this, or?
I don't know if it's a good idea to do that. But
Okay. Then we can move ahead with rev and treat rev.
it's also not only for revisions. Like it's also just if sidecar inject equals true or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So just making sure we're on the same page. So John and Costin, you guys are saying the label support for injection, you can't refer by the tag name like prod or canary. You can only refer.
No, you can. You can.
Oh, okay. Then I don't have any concern if that's the case.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I do agree with your point. It would be nice to kind of mention this tied to the tags because we're promoting them together.
Okay, as long as we specify Istio rev label can contain a revision or tags, it's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, maybe we can write some technical blog around this too, because it's actually pretty complicated, but we would love to see it highlight in the release notes.
And we should also highlight that you no longer need to label the namespace, because that's also pretty important, since a lot of people do not have permissions to modify the labels in some environments.
Costin,
Yeah.
are you the right
Yeah,
person
that's a
to
good
draft
point.
a paragraph explaining these changes at a very high level?
John did it.
John's done it.
I can also
Okay.
explain it if you want, but
All right, I'll plus you into the doc.
Yeah, I can definitely help at least review, make sure it makes sense to me too.
should we kick
Okay.
the process? Sorry. Should we start kicking
Go
the
ahead.
process for deprecating the old annotation and kind of promote this kind of for state to stable the new label system and
Yeah, so John already had an API issue for that. We can maybe have the discussion there. I don't have an issue with it, so we just need more people approve this John's PR. I'll refer it here in the notes. This one.
To be clear, by deprecating, it just means that if someone's using it, we'll just suggest that they use the label. We're never going to remove the
oh
annotation.
yeah, we'll never remove anything. From this point, it's pretty clear. We cannot remove anything in Istio.
Yeah. So let's take a note of this. Okay, that's great. Anything else we need to discuss on 111?
Yeah, quickly, I just wanted to go over the state of the release notes themselves for the update in that PR. So going to be integrating all of the changes people have commented and checking on the cherry-picked PRs that have gone in since then. Are any of the release blockers that are currently getting fixed going to require entries in the change log?
Oh, they don't need notes because no user has been exposed to the bugs. So
Cool. So, yeah, so I guess then if anyone has any last comments on these, I'd like to get this finalized by the end of the day today, if there are no more changes to be added.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ryan. Please, workgroup please, and TOC member review this if you haven't. Okay, I guess we are moving to our favorite topic. Istio extended support.
I wonder if do we want to do that today, or do we want to do the roadmaps first, since we have a bunch of those coming?
Oh, good point.
Or if we want to move this after.
I can tell you that the UX roadmap is brief.
I worry that this topic will absorb all remaining time. So
yeah, I would go for the roadmap personally.
I was going to say the other way around. And the only reason was this topic never gets closed. So I would like to time box to 5 minutes and actually close this. But if we don't have quorum, but actually we do, right?
We have everybody, I think.
So
I don't think. Do we have Louis?
Louis is here too.
Oh, Louis.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So we can time box and try to close on this. I don't know how it serves our users that we're just discussing on this for the past 8 months.
Any other opinions? Should we time for 10 minutes maximum?
I would say run through the roadmaps quickly and then get to it. But
okay.
Can we time box?
Yeah, okay.
I'm fine with that.
10 minutes for
Okay.
each roadmap and then 10 minutes for that.
Well, we have 3 roadmaps to be reviewed. Maybe we can get to 2 of them
Let's
then
do 2 of them.
Okay, sounds good. Eric, are you available for test and release roadmap?
Yes, I am. If you just want to open up the
Yep.
link and then scroll down to the test and release stuff. So just sort of arrange these things into the items that were completed, sort of what we were doing in the last release, and then the things that are in progress or what we're picking up for 1.11 or continuing. So The first one is the one that we had targeted for 1.11 that's not done. It's the evaluation of features work. Miriam has created all of the PRs. The only reason it's not done is because work group leads and or maintainers in the work groups have not gone and got those PRs merged. So basically, they just need to review the checkboxes in the documents and verify that they're indeed accurate, that Miriam has the right things in there, and then merge those PRs. So the to-do here is work groups get the PRs in, and then we could mark it complete. But from our standpoint, it's done. Continuation from prior releases are the promotion of feature process that Brian and Shweta have been working on, as well as the annotation maturity level stuff that Brian's doing. So we want to continue that in the 1.12 timeframe. One of the things we're picking up new in 1.12 is the signing of images using GoSign, and Stuart has been busy doing some of that work, and there is a doc out for that right now. And then one of the other small pieces of work that I'm going to work on is trying to get some additional automation in. When we update the build tools image, we don't have any automation to push that change out through common files. So we have the image name in the common files, and then that PR needs to be done manually today, which then kicks off the rest of the automation. So we just need to marry those two things. I believe I have code to already do that in one of the repos, so it should just be sticking it into the pipeline, I hope. And then our last P0, which was in the roadmap. Well, actually, it's not the last, but another P0 that we have is the renaming of branches from master to main. We've discussed that in the work group, and the feeling at the time was the best time to do that would probably be the beginning of fourth quarter, which would not be something we would put in the 1.12 roadmap, but it'll probably something that we would do right after the 1.12 branch cut is done. So we'd do the 1.12 branch cut, and then shortly thereafter do the rename. And then the last P0 is Istio test automation. That one hasn't got stuck in the roadmap yet either. And that one's just sort of a placeholder waiting on requirements to come from people who are creating the Istio.io tests. So thanks to Shweta for helping push getting the Istio.io docs automated. So as that work continues, we may find some additional things we need to add in the test automation. If we scroll down, things we're going to continue in 1.12 is release notes, tooling. Sam and Brian are continuing to work on that. We haven't had too much time to work with Mitch on trying to get the Istio.io maintenance stuff all taken care of going forward. One of the things that was highlighted in 1.10 on the prior chart that Shweta had that we didn't do for 1.11 that we're going to pick back up in 1.12. Stuart's going to look at updating the Docker Hub and GKE images for things like WCAG. Today, somebody has to be able to do that manually, and I believe the number of people that can do that based on the admin PR and community is becoming smaller. So we need to make sure we automate that so that we aren't reliant on a smaller subset of people to be able to do the work. And then we also want to look at PolicyBot. And I guess the last thing that's really on here to try to keep things brief that we want to try to do in 1.12 is the distroless images, getting that promoted from alpha to beta. And I think that's it, other than I've added one item within the TNR work group discussion for this next week to talk about getting periodic performance tests running. So I guess that would be another item on here.
That's great. Any comments for Eric? I guess my
It's a
only comments. Go ahead.
It's a bit of lag here. I was going to say it's a long list, Eric, which is good, but I just wanted to see if we can rejiggle the priorities, or at least I can understand. Like, so distroless images, for example, right? That's what we recommend in our security guide. It being alpha, or I don't know what the status is, that kind of puts dent in that whole plan. So can it be, what remains to be done, and why is it E2?
That's a good question. So we don't have a roadmap document. That's something that I know wasn't done yet when I had joined the team, and we just haven't done that in the work group yet. And maybe that's something we need to do. So this is the reason this list is kind of long is because this was basically our 2021 roadmap. These were the things we wanted to do for 2021. And when we did the original priorities, that was sort of the priority for 2021. So I guess we don't really have a good way in here to say this is the priorities for this release. But I do agree that the distro list probably shouldn't be a P2. It was sort of a P2 at the beginning of the year in terms of prioritizing things. And it probably really shouldn't be. So it's probably a drawback in using this document for showing priority within a given release.
Got it. And another item that feels like it should be higher up is the long running tests that we just discussed, right? I mean, it can catch real bugs and can prevent the scramble at the end.
Right. I would agree that both that and these distro images are P0s, assuming we can get somebody assigned to them, which I think we can. That's not a problem. But yes, it does highlight, I guess trying to use this table does highlight either we need a different column for priority for a given release, or we need to do something different with roadmap documents like some of the other work groups do.
Yeah, that was my comment too about distro list. I guess if you look at the features that's user impacting from build, test, and release, distro list is very high on the list. I think the other ones that's user impacting is the Istio cuddle support for Mac M1, because we have users getting onto M1 now, I assume. And I guess CV is always impactful, but many of these features are internally, so user wouldn't experience it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the Mac M1 Istio cuddle support is there. We do have an Istio cuddle that's runs on M1, but we don't build images for M1 yet.
Yeah.
Which I think was actually on the agenda for later.
Any other comments? Okay, if not, let's moving on, because we have 10 minutes for each. Mitch, do you want to go through the UX or add?
Sure, yeah, that's linked there. I don't think I've seen Ed this morning. I think he may be out. So the UX roadmap for 112, we took the doc for 111 and put a 2 where the second or the third one was, more or less. Both Ed and I have been almost 100% allocated to internal facing projects at our various companies the last quarter, somewhat unexpectedly. So very little moved forward in 111. And so we have carried all of that forward to 112. Do you want me to go line by line like we did 3 months ago, or what do you guys want to do from here?
Maybe just highlight the important one first. What do you think?
From a UX perspective, upgrade pane and the surveys around it are our top P0. We did move that forward in terms of interviews, surveys on 110 this quarter. We also have surveys set up for 111 that are giving us more and more data in terms of an apples to apples comparison of upgrades between versions of Istio, which is great. We have some work left to do there in terms of interviewing. We haven't circled back and collected qualitative feedback in quite some time, so that does need to get done.
I have a quick question, Mitch.
Yep.
Can we have something on the roadmap to do something with that data? Like, collecting data is great. It's great that we're collecting data, but we also want to turn that into actions that we take as a community. So
yeah,
is
so
there something we can put on
the
there?
extended support release that we've been kicking around for 9 months.
Right, but there should be
That's
more than that on the feedback, right?
Yes, yes, that is the #1 most requested feature in terms of upgrades, by a margin of 50%. So
I'm sorry,
that's
what's
where
the #1 most feature? I missed that.
This
extended
longer
support.
support and skip, and the ability to
Okay,
skip.
gotcha.
Well, Mitch, I think what Sven is saying is a little broader than that, right? Like,
Yes.
can we, like, it can be just, every once in a quarter you present
Yeah.
a summary of your findings.
Okay.
And I think I'll be happy with that.
Yeah,
And,
we did do that back in April, so it's probably time to revisit that again.
Yeah. Sven, were you thinking of something even more structured or automated?
I was thinking of having a list of recommendations that are presented to TOC based on the feedback,
Yep.
and then having some sort of cycle where we actually agree to take those on for the 113 or something. I don't know. So, like, list of suggested fixes for 113. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, I can work on that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mitch.
Of course. Steve and Iris have done a great job moving feature maturity forward in 110. They missed the branch cutting by a few days, so that has slipped to 112, but that's a P0 that we can effectively mark as done as soon as we get a TOC approval for the API pull request. So that'll be great. Let's see, suppressing alpha maturity on default options, that's kicked from 1.8 forward. Again, hopefully I will not be 100% allocated to internal projects this quarter, and we'll be able to work on that.
Quick thing. Do we have a sense on this? I mean, since we have been pushing it for 4 releases, have we have a surge of issues? Have we have any user feedback which says this is a problem?
We had user feedback last fall that said that it was a problem. The high-level problem is that users don't understand the maturity of the various features that they're using. We developed an analyzer to help users understand that. However, the analyzer essentially told users that everything that we use by default is alpha, because we've not been in great shape in terms of what alpha features we use by default. So the ask here was to go through, find what alpha features we're using by default, and suppress those from the analyzer so that users only see alpha features they have opted into.
Yeah, that makes sense, John.
Yeah, just kind of like broader level. A lot of the stuff is obviously pushed back from 111 and even some of it from 1.9. Do we think that we are going to actually get to these? And if not, do we need to add more staffing to this working group? And if not, then should we like deprioritize all of these so they're all P1 or even P2 if that represents the reality of how likely we are to get to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. The UX working group could definitely use staffing. If you have people who are looking to get involved in the project, we've got Ed and myself who are spread pretty thin. And then we have Iris and Steve joining us from Intel China once a month for our APAC friendly meetings. But that is by and large the extent of it. Justin's got the API promotion thing that he's working kind of in his own thread. But yes, we could definitely use staffing for these.
And so if we don't get that, then are we expecting that these are going to make substantial progress, or is that dependent on getting more people involved?
I can say that my line items I expect to be able to complete this quarter. I've been told to expect more time to devote to open source.
Okay.
I can't speak for Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess towards the support stable API promotion work, I'm planning to work with the security team on that, but that's sort of like there will be work done, but that's not like crisply defined exactly what we're promising. So maybe we need to work on that. But yeah, I do plan on working on this, but it's a little unclear exactly what we're promising.
Yeah,
And
roadmap
this,
there.
yeah, I was just going to ask it. There's no design doc for this yet, or is there one, Justin?
No, there's not. I'm not sure exactly what. Yeah, I mean, I guess it will. I'm not sure if it will be a design doc though, because we actually have a live documentation about what's supposed to happen for stable APIs. It'd probably be more of a roadmap for how we work with the various teams to get the APIs stabilized.
Okay.
Unless someone has a different idea how to approach it. I mean, maybe there are other gaps that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if there's a doc. My main worry is the migration and the update. And what's the user experience around that?
Right.
Rob
Yeah.
asked a question in the chat. Justin, did you see
that? No, I missed it.
He asked basically, didn't we decide we need to figure out how to evolve APIs before actually evolving them, or before promoting them to stable? And I know you and I have had a number of conversations on that. I don't know we've documented it anywhere.
Right. You're talking about how like having to maintain backwards and forwards compatibility, like how Kubernetes does?
I think so, but let's see. Here's Rob.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob, that's exactly what we've been talking about. We do believe that the technical infrastructure exists to support that. There are some complexities in the way that Istio has evolved or not evolved APIs in the past. But by and large, we have the technical infrastructure to do what we need to do. We're sort of waiting for a use case before adding additional infrastructure.
Yeah, I guess the concern there, right, is that if somebody does want to evolve it and you need a converter, I don't know what that looks like today, because currently the APIs are essentially the same, right? We have a single open API schema for all of the types, regardless of what version they are. So we don't really have versioning today.
That's only for networking, right?
I don't think it matters what it's for. It's just at this point you can't remove fields or change structure. All you can do is add fields and deprecate fields and say they're not used anymore.
And I would want to make an effort for everyone to make an effort to never actually remove and deprecate, because we are at a stage where we have a lot of users using a lot of the existing APIs. And if we remove or deprecate anything, regardless of the infrastructure we have or not, we users will be impacted. So for any APIs that we promoted, we should, consider that we'll need to keep them for years and forever, basically.
Yeah, well, that's why you have converters and things in Istio, right? So we've already gone through that, right, upstream with Kubernetes with respect to CRD versioning, right? So it's not something that is completely off limits. It's just something that requires planning and some implementation around. I mean, otherwise you end up stuck supporting the same stuff that you have now and it never changes. And what good is that, right?
Yeah, I guess we do need to have some concrete RFC for this, just making sure people are on the same page. And we're running out of time, like Neeraj pointed out, for the user experience roadmap.
Okay, Mitch, maybe you and I can talk about how we might be able to write such a doc, because we did have some conversations around that. Yeah. But yeah, and we can have a proposal, because I do think that I'm not sure I agree that we can never retire APIs, or we at least need to be able to support multiple simultaneously. But if it's going to be hard to make forward progress if we're just sort of stuck.
Yep. Yeah, we can put a doc together on that and get everybody's input.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Mitch and Justin. So when you have the survey and the interview ready, definitely bring back to TOC. And then you're going to check back resources to see if P0 makes sense. And Justin's going to help us put a doc together for stable API promotion. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we have last 8 minutes for Istio extended support. Mitch, I think you are the leader for this doc also.
Yes. So we talked a few weeks ago about extended support. There was some talk about needing to get steering approval because this does involve staffing up our efforts on older versions. I understand that there was some progress in steering a week ago. And I don't know, Sven, did you want to kind of give a readout of what that looked like?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, I think steering says we want to do it. There was some discussion in steering about like the LTS model where every other one is versus just doing it for everything. And I think there was a majority of steering in favor of just doing it for everything, let's say. I wanted to know more about kind of the cost between those two. But yeah, that was my take. Niraj, Louis, feel free to jump in with your views.
Yeah, I mean, I think many of the vendors involved in steering are already doing it for every release, going quite far back. Kevin certainly talked about that happening at Red Hat. I believe that was happening at Solo and at Aspen as well, right, Niraj?
Yes, I wouldn't say every release. It's happening for the releases we support.
Okay.
Yeah, not for upstream though.
Right.
Sure, yeah. But people are still cutting bills, still making patches, still doing the work.
Yep.
Right, so that work is happening even if sometimes it's not being pushed back upstream.
So what I would love to leave with today is a first step towards extending support. We've heard proposals that we do every other. We've heard proposals that we do every. I think the product security working group had an idea where maybe we dark launch it effectively by doing all of the patchwork for 1.9 over the next quarter, but not shipping it, so that we get a better understanding of the workload that we're committing to before we make that commitment. I would just love to leave this meeting with a defined next step towards that.
So my impression from the steering meeting was also that the security work is being done again by the vendors, right? So really the conversation in steering was just getting them to commit to upstreaming.
Okay.
Which everybody in the steering meeting seemed willing to commit to, seeing as they were already eating the work.
And I assume some of that work is already been done by the product security working group too in the private branch, right? In the unofficially, I guess unofficially not supported Istio releases like 1.7, 8.
Yeah, some stuff is being upstreamed by the vendors in those cases.
Yeah. Niraj? You have a
Yeah,
hand?
so for product security working group fixes, if a particular older release is being supported by a vendor, most of the times, at least the vendors which are participating in that, we go and patch it just because it's needed. There's no point hiding it. For bugs, it's different. Like John is saying, I have not seen right now a vendor go in and patch an earlier bug fix in any of the branches. It's very rare. So it's not happening in upstream at all, I think. So that needs to be addressed. But for product security working group, I think we are mostly doing it.
Yeah. Sven, you have a hand.
Yeah, so I feel like this, whether we do every release or every other release, is something we can change our minds on. Either direction is fine. We can start with either one. So I think we should just start doing it, right? Because like going to every other release just means that, you know, we get a break, right? We stop doing it. So we should start doing it, see how much load it is. Like start doing it with where we assume, I don't know, that we do it for every release, and then see how much load it is. And if we decide it's too much load, we need to move towards LTS, then we can make that decision later. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, so I think, go ahead, John.
I think that's fine, but we should just be careful about how we announce this to users. Like, it would not be great to say, hey, we're going to support, I don't know, whatever releases, and then be like, oh, just kidding, we're going to do every other release. But if we just say, like, we're going to extend the support of this version, and then a month later we say we're going to keep doing that for all versions, or we'll keep doing that for every other one, that's fine. But
yeah, that's what I
like,
was
we should
thinking.
never move backwards in the public statement. That's all I'm saying.
So right now is actually an excellent opportunity to extend the life cycle of the 1.9 release. It is scheduled to go end of life next week.
Let's start with 1.10. The old releases are usually worst. The 1.10 is a release that you know, is best to long-term support.
So I think that that's feasible. 1.10 will be old as 1.9 is by the time we actually extend the support. So the argument that old releases are not ideal really doesn't.
So there's a couple of reasons why 1.10's objectively better, I think. One, we've historically had a kind of even a stable pattern that's just naturally risen. A lot of people are on 1.10, and a lot of people are moving to 1.10 versus 1.9. I've heard from many customers that they just skip 1.9 entirely. The other thing is 1.9 does not support Kubernetes 1.22. So it doesn't really matter if we support it 9 months from now, because if they update their Kubernetes, it will break. So we're only helping users that are on old Kubernetes that are out of support anyways. So I personally would prefer 1.10. Also, it is slightly newer, so we don't go to these release managers who thought they were off the hook in a couple days and tell them they have to keep working for 3 more months. So, I mean, 1.9 is not horrible, but I just think 1.10 is a better place to start.
If we were to do every other release, the even releases are definitely timed better in the year, so that we avoid a lot of our e-commerce customers are very cautious about upgrading in Q4.
So we could do 1.10, and then we can decide later if we do 1.11 as well, or if we stick to even.
Or if we can extend 1.10 even further. I mean, we start doing 1.10, and based on how many users stick with 1.10, we can decide on adoption of 1.11. And if we don't see a lot of users moving to 1.11 because 1.10 is stable, maybe we should, you know, keep 1.10 forever.
The one thing that was very clear of the steering meeting is that we have to have a consistent and understandable message. Right. So if we're going to pick something, we're going to have to tell people, and then we're going to have to stick to it. So I agree with John. We can't decide and then undecide later.
Yeah.
We cannot do that, right? Like that's a pain for the vendors, because they don't know.
And pain for the user too.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think that's viable, right?
Yeah.
And I think on the resourcing side, right, the simplest message to deliver is we're going to N-2, right? Like, that's the simplest thing that we can say that everybody can understand. N-2 with skip level upgrade support, right? So you could go from 1.10 to 1.12 to 1.14, right? And you would be fine if that's the behavior that you wanted. If that turns out to be more work, we can go back to steering and say, look, you need to put more resources on making that work. That would be my preference. I would rather not extend 1.10 to be, you know, an 18-month release custom either.
1.4 had a very long time, and so in reality, even if we don't do it, users will naturally stick with some releases.
Right, but 1.4 had an incredibly long time because we made it catastrophically hard to upgrade to 1.5.
Exactly. So that's my point. I mean, case by case, we can decide that some releases are worth supporting LTS, and some releases may not be. So the message is, hey, 1.10, you can stay with it until we tell you another release is as good as 1.10.
Right, but how do you convey the subtlety and detail of that message to the market?
When we have data about what is a frame, I mean, I think the message that 110 will be LTS is pretty clear and easy to understand, without saying that in future we'll make when. Who knows? Maybe 111 will be LTS. Let's get some data first, and then we can.
Well, this is about providing assurance, right? A prospective guarantee to users, not reassurance that something that they've already done is going to regress. Right? We have to set the standard. Right? We can adjust it later, but like to Mitch's point, we already have feedback about what users are asking for. And it's pretty clear.
So one comment I had, I think my hand was automatically lower for me, but I never had a chance to speak. So one comment I had is instead of doing just on the event releases, we extend for 12 weeks. Can we do it 4 to 6 weeks on every single releases? So we would, I think it's effectively similar workload for us, and it would reduce a lot of confusing around which releases are supported longer, which releases are shorter, and people still have a 4 to 6 window to upgrade if they want to do skip version upgrade by moving to the next skip one version, moving to the next version. So I think that would reduce a lot of confusing around releases and which release support which windows.
I'm still struggling to understand how you would communicate that to a user, Lynn.
You would just say, instead of for each release is supported for today, I think it's for 6 months, you would just say the whatever weeks we decide on top of that 6 months, right?
That would not allow our most complex users sufficient time to upgrade. We have heard from some users that they take the majority of the quarter between waiting for the first patch release and then extensive qualification. But those are the edge case. Those are the largest users. I would say for the average case, that should be enough time.
Yeah, but for those large users, wouldn't they not using open source upstream Istio though? Because those are probably like rare cases. I would assuming they would have vendors behind them that's willing to support them longer.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We really haven't focused on the correlation of vendor utilization and complexity of installation and upgrade. I think Niraj just had his hand up for a while. So is Justin.
So it's Justin.
Justin is ahead of me. Justin, please go ahead.
Oh, well, I commented in the chat, but just we seem to be going past the dates anyway. Like, or do we have a different plan for product security? So like we're doing 1.9 patches, but if it's falling out of support next week, then we seem to be going longer than we say anyway. And do we want to have a different approach?
We have historically, and in this case, if there's been a security patch that falls like a few days out of the support window, we'll often include it. I think a few days is much different than many months.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm certainly not complaining about doing the work. I was more just curious about what the plan was. So, but yeah, that makes sense.
Niraj?
Yeah, so I think we are again losing sight of what users wanted, right? Currently, users are on 1.9. We are introducing skip level upgrades, being stable now for the first time. They probably want to move to 1.11 when 1.11 comes out. Not extending support for 1.9, I don't think is the right move, because these two things should go together. That's how we enable our users to move ahead, right? Secondly, from a release management point of view, 1.9 was, I think Aston Mesh had Jacob as one of the release managers. We will do the work needed if he has to have an extension for 3 more months. That's my 2 cents. We should not make it more complicated. We should take baby steps. We can make 1.9 extend for another 3 months. See how it goes. If you do it for 1.10, what happens is you're just punting it further down that problem. And again, somebody will bring up the point, oh, are we actually extending it or not? Because 1.10 doesn't matter. It's not going to be out of support in the next 3 months. I would actually do it, get the feedback, understand what happened.
But Niraj, what we're saying is at 1.10 we are going to backport bug fixes and other things. I mean, it's not simply we are just doing what we did in the past. We'll be more,
We are not saying that, Kostin.
Are we not saying that? I mean, what's the point then?
The point is, again, we are not changing how a bug gets patched, right? Or basically, what's the qualification for a bug to be patched in an older release? What specifically we are saying is security vulnerabilities will get patched and they will be released in a supported release, in a longer supported release version. And then for bug fixes, we will have the same parameter as before.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with Niraj says. We don't fix every bug in every release. We don't even fix every bug in the release we're about to make. Right, we would probably, if there was a P0 critical bug, right, that was not a security bug, there's a good chance it would get backported, right? But the incremental delta between that and bugs which are CVEs and bugs which are not is pretty small.
And remember, 1.9 has been in production and been released for a long time. We have made very many patches. There shouldn't be any reason that the critical bug gets introduced in that, like other than a vulnerability, right? So that's what Louis is saying, and that's what I am saying. Other than CVEs, I mean, that code is pretty much stable. So it shouldn't suddenly have a bug in it.
But you're forgetting the Kubernetes version.
I understand. Again, there are external factors, but historically those have not happened. And if that happens, we'll patch it.
Sure, but we can start with 1.10 just as well, no?
I just gave you the reason why we should. Yeah.
Right. As Niraj is just saying, we would learn something sooner if we did it with 1.9.
Yeah.
And you can exclude Kubernetes 1.22 from 1.9 support, right? We can do things like that.
Yeah. Most likely people are not going to move to Kubernetes, right away anyway.
So Niraj, can you explain again, so if we start with 1.10, what is the problem and what feedback we'll not get? Because we are going to backport to 1.10. We are just going to announce that 1.10 is going to be supported longer, just like with 1.9. And it's something that is closer to the current master, so it's a bit easier to support. What is special about 1.9?
It will not be closer to the current master by the time that extended support comes in, is the problem. A 6-month-old release is a 6-month-old release, whether it's
exactly
3 months from now or 6 months old today.
Right? We are in a situation right now with 1.9 where users would have to choose to go to 1.10 immediately because they are out of support, and then to go to 1.11, or they can say, okay, we can wait another month and test the new skip level upgrades and give us feedback on both how the extended policy went, because we tried it, and then how the skip level upgrades went. We can get feedback on multiple things.
Or they can go to 1.10 and stay there until 1.12, and we have more time to test stuff. So
no, Justin, that's what users were saying. They don't want to do that. That's what I'm trying to say.
We already have testing around the skip level upgrades. We don't need more time for that. We've already committed to supporting it. The question is the extended support window, which I don't think there would be testing for an extended support window. Maybe I'm missing something. I'd rely on Eric for that probably.
Yeah, so basically, the customers don't feel like they have to cram their upgrade budget. They get given, right, which for them feels like internal pressure.
I think the combination of the Kubernetes upgrade, that is a pretty significant one, and the fact that 1.10 is, a better release than 1.9, I would still prefer 1.10 for the first experiment. And the fact that it's bad karma to have odd releases marked as long-term support. I mean, all our even releases traditionally, because of the development cycle and style or whatever, naturally we had even releases be a bit more stable and
Again, I don't know where these stats are stored. If you can share it next time, that would be better. I think we are a little over time. It looks like we won't be able to reach a consensus. What I'm saying is for 1.9, I know who the release managers are. One of them is at least from Aspen Mesh. I am giving you a release manager who is willing to do the work. Right?
Which is very important, by the way.
Right? And we have more, and apart from the karma pieces, which I can't control, I can't control who does the work when the work comes. We can control what feedback we get, and we can help our users currently on 1.9 to move to 1.11.
so we wouldn't, so the same work would not be acceptable 1.10. So it was on 1.10 and to keep them on 1.10 and then 1.12, skipping 1.11 if they were to.
Because if they're on 1.9, we don't give them any chances. Because they have to go to 1.10. That's what Louis has been saying, and I've been saying, right? They will have to do one more upgrade.
That's the case always. I mean, we always had 1.9, 1.10. That's not changing the requirements. I mean, it's just saying that after they move to 1.10, they will stay longer than 1.10.
So we are definitely over time. So how about this, Mitch, if you have time, maybe you can update us next time when we meet on the new survey results, so we have a little bit more data, and then we can revisit this topic again next time.
Okay, so I will be out next week,
Okay.
which does mean that we are making a de facto decision not to extend the support on 1.9. Okay.
I wouldn't say that. Let's discuss this in the POC Prac channel, and I'll update you on it if we get a consensus.
Okay, thank you. If you want to follow up for me, I can do that 2 weeks from today.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining today.
Thanks, Jürgens. Bye.